Hello.
Hello.
I'm Sarah.
Hey. And I'm Erika.
And we are living understaffed. What the hell? Is that your part or my part?
That's my part. Or is it your part?
It literally says Sarah, colon.
Oh, are you on Podscript 2 or Podscript 1?
2.
Yeah.
I thought
okay. I thought so too. I used 1 last time. I'm on Podscript 2. We're both on the same page now, literally.
Hello, same page. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erika.
And we are absolutely living understaffed right now.
So understaffed. The podcast about not having enough hands. Fuck.
4 hours.
Podcast about not having enough hours. Yeah. Not having enough hours or hands, and when your best just isn't very good.
Mm-hmm. If this isn't already an indicator of how the last week has been going, I mean, stay tuned for story time, obviously, but holy shit. So, Erika, go ahead. Tell us about your understaffed life right now.
So I started a new job. Well, first of all, I think it's just you're an adult, so you have to do things on the weekend, and then you have to work after the weekend, which is just bullshit. So I went to Costco. No, okay, so I did do it to myself a little bit. So I went to Costco, and then I went to Trader Joe's, and then I went to Books A Million because that's the closest decent used bookstore, and that's also kind of close to Raleigh. And then I came home, so I was gone all day, and then I went and hung out with one of my friends for a little bit. And that was a very big day for me. I didn't even get a nap, which is Sarah knows this. I nap every day that I possibly can because I love napping, and why would you want to be awake? Yeah. Also, I used to be on Wegovy, which is like Ozempic or whatever, like a semaglutide. And I was on it and I lost a bunch of weight and it was the best. And then my doctor was like, why don't you see how you do off of it? And she took me off of it and I immediately gained 25 pounds. And I was like, this sucks. This sucks. And she's like, well, we can put you back on it. And I was like, well, thank you. But with the one that I'm on, you have to go up by 25. It takes 6 months to get to the full dose. And I just this is terrible and I hate it. This is dumb and I hate it. This is dumb and I hate it. This is dumb and I hate it.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That would be a very big day.
How are you understanding?
Oh my God. Well, I will say, last episode we talked about me being understaffed and my full-time job having an inspection happening. And today was day 1 and it was massively underwhelming. I am very grateful. So here's the thing. I work on an award-winning team. I am not saying that to be bragging. I am honestly quite humble about it, but on a bragging level, we are fucking boss at what we do. And we are a great team. Most of us work super, super well together. I mean, it's just like any team dynamic. There's some people that you kind of get along with. There's some people that you're like, meh, whatever, but you still get along. You still finish the things as a team. You do what you got to do, right? You take care of your students or your mission or your freaking project or whatever it is. And so on a real life level, we are a 3-time award-winning team. So this inspection hasn't happened for several years, and we have 2 of our headquarters, higher ups, came down yesterday to inspect our office, basically to go through the standard operating procedures, to go through all of the handbooks, the manuals, the things that are put out by our higher ups. And we're awesome. I spent weeks leading up to this week preparing documents, preparing files, preparing like all of the little things that I was in charge of for a specific topic that they were focusing on, like program management. I had like 20 things that I had to prepare. So I've been like since we first met about this like 2 months ago, several weeks at a time, like, all right, this week I need to fix on this. I need to work on this. I need to do this. Compile data from the actual like SOPs and all that. Today, being day one, was just supposed to be the chief and the deputy chief with the 2 inspectors for pretty much the whole day. They were going over like their specific program pieces, but they busted through it so quickly that we were working on admin stuff that was supposed to be all of tomorrow. We were working on admin stuff by 10 o'clock this morning. And so we were like, all right, let's do this. So then by the time the interview that I had to go to was at 1400. And so I'm sitting in the interview and I'm getting a bunch of text messages at 1430 saying that we were starting on the big section, the program management section. And as soon as I get done with that, I need to head back to the office. And I'm like, it's an interview with an investigator. Like, what am I supposed to do here?
What do you want from me? Actually,
Right. So on a cool side, everybody knew that I had compiled this 3-ring binder. You and I have talked about, love of office supplies and love of organization. So my 3-ring binder was like tabbed, this group of papers was supposed to be for section 4, question 9, let's get real. So anyway, I get back to the office and like everybody knew that I had compiled this notebook together. So they had already grabbed it from the office, including the stack of files that I had prepared, because they say, provide 3 student files to show us the information that they received a diploma from graduation. Cool. Here's 1, 2, 3, and I had the names on the, it was all prepared. I just wished I could have been there so that I could be like, I'm a fucking rock star. Look at my notebook. It's so pretty. So so I
tell me how much you love my binder.
For sure. So I come in halfway through, they hand all my shit back to me. And every time it was a section that I was in charge of, open up the 3-ring binder, hand him the piece of paper. Here you go. Okay, so explain this to me. Blah, blah, blah. Got it. Okay, next section. Like, boom, boom, boom. So it was a really good feeling. On top of that, last year, well, it's been almost 2 years now, I created a handbook for our instructors, for the American instructors, because some of them are new when they come into the rotation and they've never worked with IMOs before. And so I created like this 10 or 11 page handout, like a PDF that says, hey, SGLs, welcome to the IMSO family. Here are all the things, or roughly the majority of things that you need to know in order to work with my international students. And it's beautiful. Not going to lie to you right now. It's beautiful. I designed it. It's fantastic. There were ideas from people across the office. I kind of honed in on it, put it all together. And my supervisor presented it to the inspector today. And he said, this is fucking awesome. Who did this? And I was like, oh, thanks. That was me. I fully take credit for that. Like, thank you. And he said, across all of Army, he is going to implement it into our best practices. And I was like, thank you. Thank you. Yep. That was me. So
that's awesome.
It is awesome. So I feel like a rock star. But then we whipped through so much material today that they're going to probably be done by the end of tomorrow. And they were supposed to be done end of Wednesday. And today's Monday for those of you listening. But I'm pretty stoked about it. So we're whipping through this inspection, and I put so much pressure on myself to perform, basically, like it has to be perfect and everything has to be together. And these are all the details. And here's what you need. When really, we really
so no
are.
Surprise there.
Right. Like when really we are a really great team. And I probably didn't have to put so much effort into it, but I did. And now I can breathe a little bit because now I know what the expectation is, right? Like now I can kind of bring myself down a little bit and be like, okay, so now I've been sick for like 6 fucking weeks trying to get over this. Like my old roommate and her daughter got some kind of virus and I skirted it for like 2 weeks, but then it hit me and I have not been able to shake it. Like I have taken antibiotics, I have taken medications, I've taken over the counter shit. I cannot skirt it. And so this weekend, I was supposed to get a whole bunch of shit done, including moving into my new house and doing all this stuff, getting stuff done for the pod that I am very much behind on. And I literally slept all weekend. Like I practically, the only beautifully productive thing is I went and got my nails done. And they're beautiful.
Hell yeah.
I also am going to get you some stuff from Germany and Romania because vacation. Oh, God, I'm so excited. If anybody needs a fucking break, no offense to those people out there, but if anybody needs a fucking break, it's me. And
it's you, girl.
And I'm also going to be working on pod stuff while I'm on vacation. So, like, am I really taking a vacation? Yes. But also, I have shit to do.
So now you're only down to 3 jobs instead of 4?
Well, but I'm also moving into the new house. So kind of down to 3 jobs, but now I have to move. And I'm moving. The great thing is I'm moving into a smaller place and I'm saving money, which is wonderful. But now I have to find storage space for the bigger items that I'm not like going to be using regularly, or the totes full of stuff that I'm not going to be using regularly. So there's a little bit of like wiggle room that has to happen in the next couple weeks. But this week, the inspection was the main thing, and trying to get healthier. So I feel way better today. But what my roommate and her daughter are still going through is like this dry cough. And all weekend, I was just like coughing, and there was some mucus and all this shit kind of working out of my lungs. But the cough is the worst part. My rib cage hurts. My throat hurts. Like,
yeah,
it is ridiculous. So I do feel better today. But sweet Jesus, I'm tired. And I didn't really sleep last night. I was so anxious. So I made the mistake. I got home. I heated up some dinner. I had a piece of chocolate cake because I deserve a little treat. And I get messages from Erika.
Obviously.
Yeah. I got some messages from Erika saying she had taken a nap and she was ready to record when I was. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool. Like, it's going to be fine. But I've been so in motion all day today that I spent just a hair too long sitting down and like chilling, that now I am like falling over exhausted, that this episode is actually like mental energy for me. Like, I know, listeners, I know that we have all been there. I know this. Like, it's literally the premise of our podcast. Like, we ourselves are understaffed. And
yeah.
I text Erika today. I am the epitome of understaffed right now. So, God.
As you do regularly, because it's fucking true.
All I can say is that the more that I do it to myself and the more aware of it that I am, the more I realize that it really is me not being able to slow down and be alone with my thoughts. It's a trauma response.
To be fair, who wants to be alone with their thoughts?
Well, that's exactly it. It's a trauma response. So we add things to our plate to like fill it up so that we don't have any free space for our brain to do the thinking, or even, and I will be the one to say it, but even for our brain to heal, because we have to have the downtime in order to reflect, in order to heal, so that we can move on with our lives. But we choose not to because it's painful. And I've had some trauma.
Child.
Oh,
I mean, I'm up there too, but like, you are the worst.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh,
love that for you.
There's some like nice things happening, but again, Sarah needs to get her fucking hopes under control, because not everything pans out the way that we want it to, right? Like, everything pans out the way that it's supposed to, even if it's not quite the plan that we think that it should be, you know? So
yes, I agree. I'm also a high hopes person. And part of me is like, don't be a high hopes person, because more often than not, it's like you just get kind of let down. But when shit works out and you're like,
Oh,
you don't close yourself off to the option and it fucking works out, it's
the nicest feeling ever.
Yeah.
So I am very much an optimistic person. And I will say, like, my ex is very much a pessimistic person, even though he didn't see himself that way. Okay. But as far as us being, opposites attract, right? I was very much the optimistic person. He's the pessimistic person. He considered himself more realistic, which is what pessimistic people say. And no offense to you people out there, but in my experience, it just means you're that much more of a pessimist. You're just not admitting it to yourself. So I might get some hate from that. I'm not going to apologize. That's my opinion. So,
no, I totally agree. Sorry, not sorry.
well, so there's what I learned also in therapy for years and years is that in most relationships, there's always an anchor and there's always a balloon. And I'm very much the balloon. What I learned, however, is that you still have to anchor yourself. And especially if you're not in a relationship, such as myself, you have to be able to anchor yourself because no one else is. You have to be able to do it for yourself. Or you let yourself fly and you learn to live with the potential letdown or whatever it is, whatever disappointment it may be, which I have done. I also do that too. But yeah, I love the words that are being said about the potential job offer, but also it has to actually happen for me to like live that life,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I'll be here cheering you on, obviously, as usual.
there's some pretty cool things in the pipeline coming. And not to brag, but our podcast is doing really fucking well. And I love it. And I love that for us. I also love it for the listeners. Because what I'm finding, and it's it's not like we have hundreds of thousands of listeners. That's not what okay, yeah, let's not lie. That would be the goal. That would be so awesome if in 5 years I could turn around and be like, 5 years ago we had 4 listeners and 2 were my siblings. Cool.
Yeah, they're 2 are my siblings.
So Maya in Croatia, one of my old students, like she says that she listens, which is wonderful. Hi, Maya. Thank you for being here. But what I can say is I'm honestly proud of the work that we've put into this. And it wouldn't be possible without Erika being here with me. I can do a podcast all day, but I like the other person to be there, So I don't know. The pod world is like a love of mine, and I'm really grateful to be here. And we're doing really well with the resources that we have and the staffing issues that we have right now. So, yeah, in a corny way, thank you to you, Erika, and listeners, but to Erika.
Thank you. But also, let's not pretend like you don't still do like 70% of the work for this.
No.
You do. Which I appreciate. I do. On our TikTok, there's this podcast called Functional Chaos.
Mm.
And their premise is pretty similar. And they started following us, so I started following them on TikTok. And
Oh,
she
I
sent me
love
a
that.
message, and she was like, "Hey," like, how long have you been podcasting? And we were like, "Oh, like, I was like, not a super long time, but like, we really like it." And she was like, "Oh yeah, we've been doing it since like a year and a half." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And I was like, "If you want a promo, we will
100%.
trade these." And if she's down for that, I'll definitely be like, "Hey, if you want a guest on ours, like or at least I will guest on yours."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that would be awesome. I would love that.
Yes.
Especially because the premise is so similar. Let's go. That's right.
Yeah, and I watched some of their reels and they're pretty fun. They're pretty funny. It's like the same sort of energy of our podcast. So I think if their listeners will like our podcast and our listeners will like their podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super cool.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, onwards. So we're going to talk about microfeminism, which is like, for those of you who have not been on the internet ever, it's essentially like small, like small things that you can do to like, like the definition that like I looked it up and it's like small things that you can do to like push societal change. For me, it's like sort of my like and maybe that is it. I'm just more angry about it, but I'm like, this is all bullshit. Can we just try to eat like, or at least make people recognize like what they're doing is sexist and shitty and maybe don't do it. Um, and there's a bunch of things, and some of them are stuff that like we already do, I'm sure. Like I've been doing it for years. Unless a woman tells me otherwise, I'm just going to call them Ms. whatever in an email. So MS, whatever their name is.
Yes.
I'm not going to say Mr. or Mrs. or Mr. Miss MRS or MISS. I'm just going to, unless they tell me otherwise, because it's not my business whether they're married or not.
Correct.
Let me get my thing up here. And also like having like a network of women where like you can ask for help and like supporting each other when you're in meetings and stuff. I have been in a lot of places in my career where I have been the only woman or like one of only like two women in the room. And it's so important. And definitely when you're the only woman in the room, you get interrupted all the time. Also, you are just expected like, oh, you're the woman, like what? You're gonna organize the things and make the coffee and all that stuff. And it also sucks because we're both admin and sometimes that falls under that umbrella, but it's like, is it because it's admin or is it because I'm a woman?
Or because I'm female.
Yeah. So I don't do that. I don't even offer. Like I won't even get up.
That's okay.
But there's other ones that like I didn't really think about. Like I think about it, but I don't do it enough. Like when people are talking about like there's one woman where she's like, yeah, whenever men are talking about football, she's like, I go up to them and they're like, you mean men's football? Interesting. And I'm like, I'm going to start doing that forever. Because if you talk about basketball, you assume that it's men's basketball. And if it's not, then they'll preface it by saying it's women's basketball. So I'm just going to do that from now on. Also along those same lines, we're like, if you're like at work or you're at like a holiday party or whatever, ask, or just in general, like ask the men, like, how do you balance your career and having kids at home? That must be so hard. Oh, you don't cook? Aren't you like, how do you think you're going to impress a woman? Which I also like, that kind of stuff irritates me, but now I'm like, I'm doing that.
Yes.
I'm doing that forever now.
Yes.
Or like, and I've hated this. And when I looked it up, it made me feel better about hating it. When people are like, oh my God, what a girl boss move. And I'm like, we're just regular bosses, actually. Like, I'm not going to go to my supervisor and call her a girl boss because she's a supervisor. There's actually already a word for that, and it's just a boss. Like, I think, what was it? It was like some company was doing like, oh, send us your like, Sheroes. It was like a hero, but like a play on words. And everyone was like, yeah, it's, first of all, there's already a word for that. Secondly,
hero. Thank you.
It's hero. My personal favorite one that I came across, though, is when a guy stares at your chest, stare at his hairline. I didn't even consider that. And I'm never going to stop. I'm like, I'm going to do that every fucking time.
Oh,
Because that's the only equivalent.
that's fucking gold.
Uh-huh. I'm going to do that for the rest of my life.
Oh, I love that.
I know. And
That's-
listeners do it. Let's make this a cultural norm. When a guy feels like he can just stare at your tits, just stare at his hairline. Make him equally uncomfortable. No, one thing and another thing that I used to do at one of my previous jobs that I will try not to get too wrapped up in because I just get filled with rage when I think about it. But referring to men's emotions in terms that they would describe or dismiss women's emotions, like, why are you being so emotional? Like, if they're mad, I'm like, why are you being so emotional? Or my personal favorite, there was one guy that used to get really upset about certain things, like, very easily. And every time I would be like, I see you're having a lot of really big feelings about this. Maybe you should go back to your desk and think about it for a little while and then come back to me. He always handled it exactly the way that you would think about it. No regrets. Not a single regret.
I have never been more in love with you than this moment right now.
I'm a huge advocate of that. Another one that I read that I didn't even think about it, but using words that men use to describe women. I know this happens to me in the workplace where, like, you know, a guy will be like, oh, Sandy. And you're like, oh, there's two Sandys in the office. And he'll be like, oh, the voluptuous one. And you're like,
You?
you could have just said the one with brown hair,
Yeah.
Tom. But I definitely do that. I'm like, oh, the Brian, the petite with brown hair, that guy. Or, stuff like that. And men don't like that at all.
I can imagine.
But I never thought of it that way, and I'm definitely continuing because no one's gonna be like, don't do that. So, listeners, if you have more microfeminism, please tell me how you do it. And if you have any suggestions, if you take anything away, it's definitely the tell grown ass men that they're having really big feelings, because that's one of my favorite things.
One thing, this topic also is trending on TikTok right now. And one thing that it says is, I'll be blown off about a problem and they'll wait for a male maintenance person to tell them what I already told them before I fix it or before they'll fix the problem. I refer to this as translating it into dick. Luckily, I have a coworker on day shift that has my back. So if they try to go to him about a problem, he'll say, did you already try what she said or do I need to translate what she said into dick for you? And I'm like, I love that. Yep, gonna be using that.
Yes. So I read a book a while ago, which reminds me, I need to send it to you. It's called That's What She Said, and I don't remember who it's by. I'll find out, and so we can put it in the show notes. But
Please do.
It's essentially about the difference between men and women, specifically in like an office setting, and the differences between like the system is not set up for us. It's set up for white men and their sort of like cultural upbringing. So because we are not socialized the same way as men, the things that work for them, like the traditional like mentoring and like the competitive nature of stuff, works in their favor and is geared towards them and what they're comfortable with. It's not like that for women. And that's not including like people of color or anything like that, because that's also a totally different program or a totally different problem. But one thing that the author said is like, what's really important is like, we need men on our side. Unfortunately, like we can all rage against this as much as we want, but unfortunately, most men don't listen or don't care or don't think it's an issue.
100%.
So we need them to understand, and we need them to do that. And say things like, oh, actually, she just said that, because they won't listen to us, but they'll listen to another man, which is frustrating, but it doesn't make it any less necessary. There are just so many men that just don't like women, and I don't think they realize how it comes across. Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't really realize this that much, but like how many men, especially older men, but definitely men our own age too, like they'll seem fine. Like, oh, like, you know, but then you listen to them talk and they don't have a nice thing to say about a woman that they know.
Yep.
Or they say things like, oh, well, it's way easier for women in this way or that way or whatever. And I've always sort of been like, if I get equal pay, I'll buy my own fucking drinks. Thank you very much. Like,
100%.
This is not like, oh, you don't have to buy drinks when you go out. And it's like, first of all, I do anyway, because, and secondly, like, how is that a comparison? And it's just stuff like that I didn't really think about, or how it's like disguised as chivalry. Like, oh, well, I just want to be like a provider and I want to take care of you. And it's like, I can provide for myself and I can take care of myself. And the fact that you don't think I can do that as well as you can is pretty fucking insulting.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading some stories on it's a website called Mamma Mia. It's Australian. And it, you know, it's like little stories about microfeminism. One of them says, I work in a bank, and when I open a joint bank account or set up an insurance policy, I always put the woman's name first.
Excellent.
The other one, so this is, I call out people who ask, is your husband home babysitting the kids? No, ma'am, he is not. He is home being a parent. Boom. Yep. And then, let's see. I don't cook dinner ever. My husband and I both work. He handles all the dinner prep, including the weekly shopping, and cooks dinner for the family every night. If he's too tired to cook, we get takeaway. I never do it. And like, okay, I know I talk about things with my ex, but it's mostly just like relationships that I'm trying to like pull out of people, right? I did so much of the cooking in a past relationship. And it's not that I don't enjoy cooking. It's the not being appreciated for it, because I would do the shopping and I would do the planning and I would do all the things, right? So it got to the point, you know, the whole conversation of like, what do you want for dinner? Oh, I don't know. What do you want for dinner? Oh, I don't know. You pick. It is like nails on a chalkboard.
All 13 of our listeners were just incredibly triggered by that.
My apologies, sincerely.
Including me.
Oh my God. So that conversation is like nails on a fucking chalkboard. And I put my fucking foot through the goddamn steps to hell and said, we will no longer have that conversation. Tonight, I pick dinner. Tomorrow, you. The next day, me. The next day, you. The next day, me. We did this for 2 years. And I am very proud to say that my therapist was like, how the fuck did you get him to do that? Because not a single other relationship, not a single other couple that I treat could manage to handle that. And I was like, I don't fucking know. I just got mad enough and put my foot down, I guess. Like, I honestly don't know how I did it. It just fucking happened. A lot of arguing and a lot of nights with no dinner, but it fucking worked for 2 years. Okay. Now, my ex, this also forced him to learn how to cook a little bit. So did we have McDonald's chicken nuggets and French fries every other day for like 6 fucking months? Yes, because that was what he decided to provide for dinner that night, right? For me, I would either cook or I would grab a frozen pizza or I would grab a pizza from Pizza Hut or I would get subs or something, right? Like, I'm not going to cook every fucking night, but a little bit of reciprocation or appreciation is what I'm looking for, right? So he finally started branching out. He learned how to make chicken Alfredo, but had to make me check the chicken every time because he wasn't sure it was fully cooked. What else? Oh, to be fair, he did learn how to make homemade pizza, like a pretty damn good homemade pizza. But if it had chicken, I had to check every time if the chicken was. So, like, the effort was there. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, by the end of that 2 years, we were kind of back into a groove. We were about to PCS back out of about to PCS out of Germany back to Missouri. So we kind of got out of the habit. But by that time, he learned how to cook like 5 or 6 meals well enough that I almost didn't have to check if it was cooked correctly. And listeners, I sound like a psycho, and I it's not that I was like over his shoulder checking the chicken to make sure that it was cooked. It was every time he cooked, he had to come find me whatever I was doing, and then be like, "Can you come check this? Because I don't know if it's fully cooked." It's not that we would like fight about it, but it got so annoying to the point that we did start fighting. Because I'm like, it has like, you are 30 something years old. Fucking check the chicken yourself. Like, check this, like, Google it. Do something.
Get a meat thermometer.
To
They're
fucking
like
figure.
$10.
Thank you. So like, but I will say on a learning to compromise level and like that teamwork effort, today I take care of you, tomorrow you take care of me. Today you, tomorrow me. Like that every other day schedule, while it was difficult in the beginning, we did really well for a couple of years. And that whole like, it's not that I'm not happy being someone's wife and having dinner on the table and like creating this atmosphere at home, but that appreciation level has to be there for me to be able to continue to keep doing it. And if it's not there, then like go fucking make some hot dogs for yourself. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was watching TikTok, and this is something that I think resonates with me a lot as a woman, but also as a person working in administration, because there's a lot of overlap. Like when you put on a production, like a play, there's the actors and actresses, but there's also the people behind the scenes. There's the people who are like organizing everything and making sure that the people go on stage when they're supposed to, and people working the lights and the curtain and the
building the
costumes
set
and the makeup and all of that stuff. Yeah, all of that stuff. And like if you're a woman, like for me as a woman, both at my job and at home, I do a lot of that, like doing the actual paying of the bill, going grocery shopping, doing the meal planning, etc. Planning what we do and where we go and when we do that, and like the dog needs to go to the vet, and taking time off work so I can take the dog to the vet, stuff like that. And then at the end of the day, everyone applauds the actors and actresses because that's what they see.
Mm-hmm.
Not
all the behind the scenes stuff.
Behind the scenes. Yeah. And it happens to me, and it happens a lot at work also. A little bit, actually. The job that I have now, it's not as bad, but I've definitely been in a lot of positions where it's like, what do you mean your job's hard? And it's like, you're welcome to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's that kind of stuff that I think gets really frustrating, is it's like, no, each one of those individual things is not difficult, but it's all the emotional labor that goes into it. And then when they're like, what, like it's hard? It's like,
no, it isn't. It's not hard, like, but I have to put up with your toxic fucking attitude. And that's enough energy for an entire fucking lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why am I doing all of this stuff? Why am I planning meals? Why am I stressing myself out when it's not even a big deal to you?
Yep.
So, and that's sort of like the greater, and there's still like, you can read all the statistics forever, and they all say something slightly different, but women on average still do more of the housework than men do, even though there are more women in the workforce than there are men. There are more women who are in like in the medical field is more women, including doctors. Like there are more female med students than there are male med students.
Mm-hmm.
There are more women in college in general than there are men in college. Like, but the pay gap has not changed since 2003. Like, what are we? So women in the US are still working our asses off and then going home and working our asses off, and no one cares. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I will step off my soapbox now.
We care. We fucking care. It's fucking frustrating. Like, and living alone, I feel like that train has never stopped. Even though, you know, this weekend I slept a lot, but it's also because I'm under the weather, because I'm so understaffed, because I have so much on my plate. Like, it's a never ending vicious cycle. And not the only, but one of the ways that we can help other women in this society, in this world, is by standing up. And if it's in the form of using those microfeminisms to like help you get through the workday, then fucking do it. You know, if it is working out more, building up your confidence, doing whatever it is that you do to help you in the workforce or at home, do it. Because we, as far as women, we need to lift each other up as it is. We need to straighten each other's crown before we try to knock it down. So, yeah, we're on a listener's level or whatever reel this is, we're here for women, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Listeners, if you have song recommendations that you're like, girl, you have to listen to this, I want you to send it to me. I am also, Erika, huge music people. Like, yeah. I would absolutely love music recommendations. Now, if it's not my genre, I'm going to tell you. But am I still going to give it a listen because somebody sent it to us? Yes. Because somebody took the time out of their day to send us something. Send it. Like, send it to me right now.